Vectorman is good. That's it. That's the video. Man, running this channel will be easier than I thought.
Cody, did you hear that? It's gonna be easy.
Okay. Obviously, I have more to say. You can see the video progress bar at the bottom. Do people even still find that joke funny? Oh well, there will be more where that came from. Vectorman was released for the Sega Genesis in late 1995, a few months after the Saturn was released, and just as the PS1 was hitting store shelves.
Vectorman, play to win, October 24th. Sega.
Despite already releasing their new 32-bit system, Sega wanted to show that there was still some life in their aging 16-bit console. And who better to do this than their veteran developers, Blue Sky Software. In Vectorman, you play as Vectorman, who just returned to Earth after dropping some trash off at the sun. The game takes place in the distant future where humans have polluted the Earth so badly that they have to evacuate into space and leave a bunch of robots to clean up the mess. Anyway, some of the robots must have missed a Windows update or two because they accidentally attached a nuclear warhead to the main supervisor bot overseeing the entire cleanup operation, turning him evil and giving him an amazingly original new name, Warhead. The now evil Warhead reprograms all the Orbots on Earth to stop the cleanup and start making weapons in order to ambush the humans that will soon return to Earth. Our working class hero Vectorman was busy piloting a trash barge to dump the waste into the sun, so he was out of Wi-Fi range at the time and missed the memo. Now it's up to him alone to take down Warhead and save humanity.
Garbage day!
Right off the bat, the game drops you into this gorgeous level, and it's clear that Blue Sky really knew how to push the Genesis hardware. And this isn't even the best looking level. The second thing you'll notice is just how smooth Vectorman's animation is. This is thanks to a coding trick that Blue Sky came up with that they named Vector Piece Animation. Vectorman isn't a traditional sprite, where each frame of movement is a new frame of pixel art. He's actually comprised of 23 smaller sprites that all move in unison along vectors to give him smooth motions. His stance will even change based on the angle of ground he's standing on. Take that, GTA 4. I think this might also be the first instance of something similar to ragdolling on death. Once Vectorman expires, all his sprites will fall and bounce along the ground in a dynamic fashion. Not having dedicated frames for animations freed up a lot of memory on the cartridge for more gorgeous graphics elsewhere, like these flags, or the TV screens in the final main level. Blue Sky really pushed the color palettes to make these levels pop. They even used the palette swapping capabilities on the Genesis to play with lighting. You can see this when Vectorman fires his weapon, and in certain sections of levels where there's lightning, or light coming in through windows, or rays of light filtering through water in the ocean. Vectorman was created as a direct response to the success of the Donkey Kong Country games on the SNES. Sega wanted to show that the Genesis could handle pre-rendered sprites and graphics just as well as the Super Nintendo could. There were even reviews at the time that said Vectorman could go toe-to-toe with the next-gen PlayStation games. A statement like this sounds ridiculous nowadays. I mean, when you think of PlayStation, you probably think of stuff like this. But back in 1995, when Vectorman first came out, this is what PS1 games actually looked like. So honestly, that statement isn't that far off. Vectorman is not just a looker, it's a blast to play as well. The game runs at a silky smooth frame rate that only drops now and then, understandably when there's a lot happening on screen. Vectorman just controls great as a run and gun shooter. I know some people that question why a simple trash robot has weapon capabilities, and my general response is,
it's a f***ing video game.
Vectorman essentially has 8 forms of attack in this game. By default, he has a simple energy projectile that he can fire from his hand. You'll find a bunch of these TVs hanging in random spots, and blowing them up will usually give some sort of power-up. There's an automatic weapon that shoots way faster and arcs a little and even bounces off walls. There's a spread gun, which I've always just called the shotgun. And there's one called the bolo, which has one of the most interesting firing sounds I've ever heard in a video game. As a kid, I always called this one the bubble gun because the sound reminded me of liquid bubbling or something. Anyway, the bolo gun is interesting because not only can it travel through enemies, it hits multiple times as it does. The other forms of attack are all not projectile based. One power-up causes a couple little orbs of energy to rotate around Vectorman that not only make him invulnerable, but will also kill enemies that come close. The final power-up is a seizure-inducing screen-wiping super weapon that kills all the enemies on screen. The annoying thing is this takes up your weapon slot, so it's easy to activate it on accident as soon as you pick it up, or it makes traversal a little difficult if you want to move further into the level to maximize the kill count. One cool thing though is that the weapon actually lasts a few seconds, so it will immediately kill all enemies on screen, but if you keep moving, it'll actually kill new enemies that pop up as well. Those of you paying attention will notice that so far I've only mentioned 7 here. That's because the last form of attack is not a power-up or projectile. It's actually one of my favorite little details in this game. When Vectorman does a double jump, he uses rockets in his boots to do so. Those rockets can actually damage enemies, and if you time it right, it can instantly kill a lot of the basic foes. In addition to new weapons, there's also power-ups that morph Vectorman into new forms because I guess that's a thing Orbots can do. There's Drill, which allows Vectorman to break through weak sections of floor. Bomb, which turns him into a bomb that can blow up certain walls and kills enemies around you for good measure. Jet gives him a jetpack that lets him fly around and reach areas that you can't normally reach with regular double jump. Fish just lets you move through water a bit easier and not much else. Missile makes you shoot straight up really fast to break through a weak ceiling, which I think only ever happens once in the whole game. Parachute is near useless and just makes Vectorman fall really slowly. Can't attack or anything, it just drops slower than usual. Finally, there's what I always just call the car morph, but its official name is Buggy, and this form is supposed to be a dune buggy. But all the ground you ever drive on is flat, so you don't even get any nice bouncy dune buggy action. Finally, I gotta talk about the sound and music. This is not just one of the best looking games on the Genesis, it's one of the best sounding too. The sound effects are satisfyingly punchy, especially the bassy boom of the spread gun, the clanks from the enemies, the nice stomp sound when Vectorman lands from a jump. Kino. But the real standout here is the music. The music was composed by game music industry newcomer at the time, John Holland, who then went on to compose Vectorman 2, a Goosebumps PC game, some Ms. Pac-Man game, and then, well, not much else really. He just kind of swooped in and made a banger game soundtrack and left to do more of his own thing. There's an interview video that was posted on YouTube 10 years ago. God, that makes me feel old. Where John describes the challenges of making music on the Genesis.
Basically, the Sega Genesis, you probably know more about it now than I can remember, because I remember being limited to 5 or 6 voices for the entire soundtrack, okay? A lot of that included sound effects, and they usually take priority. Whenever you have a lot of sound effects going on, the music tends to take a second seat, you know?
I guess nobody told them about those 4 extra channels from the PSG sound chip they left in for Master System compatibility. But John's experience with dance and EDM music helped him overcome this limitation.
So what I did is I'd heard a lot of Genesis music from people, and I realized that's not what I wanted to do. Not because it wasn't good, I just wanted to do something different. I was involved with dance music, I was involved in the whole electronic music scene at the time, you know. I thought that the best thing for being limited to 6 notes of polyphony, meaning 6 notes at one time, I think it was 5 or 6 notes, I forgot, but maximum at one time. So anybody who plays a musical instrument knows that that's like one chord, or, you know, one guitar strum or whatever. I didn't want to do wow. To me, I would fall asleep listening to that. So I thought, wow, okay, you have 5 or 6 notes. Dance music is about syncopation. Kick drum, bass line, kick drum, bass line, hi-hat, kick drum, bass. Nothing really seems to happen on the same beat. Very rare, you know, and again, depends what you're talking about. But in the case of the Genesis, we could make Kraftwerk, Depeche Mode kind of soundtracks with using some clever syncopation, delaying the MIDI channel by a fraction so that they don't hit at the same time. So now you have 8th note delays, 16th note delays, with, you know what I'm saying, meaning that you get like an echo. And there's no echo, but you're hearing 2 notes, just the second note is softer than the first.
Seriously, go watch that full interview. I'm pretty sure it's the only interview John Holland has ever done. The link is down in the description. With the syncopation and quick short notes, you never really feel like you're missing any of the music, even when the sound effects take over. The tracks have such good rhythm that you never really lose the groove no matter how frantic the action gets. Plus, there's some excellent use of stereo panning. I hope you have your headphones on. These are some genuinely good tracks that definitely hold up on their own, even outside the game. Some of the best ones have been in my music playlist for years. They hold up so well, in fact, that after the game was released, Sega reached out to John to produce an actual album for their Sega Tunes collection. Seriously, look these albums up, they're all great. Now, even great games still have some flaws, and Vectorman is no exception. It's annoying that it forces you to watch a significant portion of the title screen animation before you can continue. Which gets really annoying because if you get distracted and let the demo play out, you gotta wait again before you can continue. Some of the levels are absolutely gorgeous, but there's a significant amount that are basically the same art assets with different palettes, and it kind of feels like padding. I don't like that annoying booping noise when your upgraded weapon is about to run out. I also don't like that your health is persistent between levels. Oh, you barely survived that last level with only 1 pip of health? Too bad! Good luck on the next level! I don't like the more gimmicky levels between some of the main levels. The visuals are nice and show off some nice rendering tricks, but they're just not that fun. Plus, even though they feel like bonus levels, they're still actual levels. If you do badly enough, you can game over on these. Finally, like so many other games of its time, this game also suffers from some cheap enemy placement, especially those motherfucking flying net robot things. Fuck off! It probably sounds like I'm gushing over this game, and well, I am, because it deserves the love. This game went a long way to show that there was still some life in this old hardware. And apparently even the development process was pretty smooth and drama-free, since by this point Blue Sky was very familiar with the Genesis. There's so many little bits of polish that I love that shows how much care went into this game. The lighting changes when Vectorman shoots his weapons or just moves through the levels. Some spotlights have these little pixel bugs flying around in the light. A couple levels have this great lens flare effect. The waterfalls and the ice level look amazing. Vectorman even has some fun voice samples that give him just enough attitude for the mid-90s. You can even play around with Vectorman on the initial Sega screen to get used to the movement controls if you want. And they even let you blow it up. For me, Vectorman is one of the many reasons I'm glad I grew up with the Sega Genesis. Of course, I always encourage people to find original media if you can. It's usually not too expensive if you find it at your local retro store. Even then, you can find it pretty easily in most Sega compilations, like Sonic's Ultimate Genesis collection for the Xbox 360 and PS3, which are not the easiest to find nowadays, but an excellent collection you should own anyway. But it's also available on Steam in the Sega Genesis collection, which is probably the easiest way to find it. Vectorman is fast, loud, action-packed, fun, and one of the many, many reasons why games are good.
He knew the world would not be the same. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.